Well, that was a brilliant bit of fill-in, waiting until I got my mics on, so well done, that's fantastic. Okay, so I was one of those speakers who was asked to speak after half of you bought the tickets, and that's very humbling that none of you came here actually to see me. Okay, so this is a journey. This is a journey that ended spectacularly badly. For the fish. And I want to talk a little bit about many journeys that I've seen. And these are journeys taken by academics, and I used to be at UCL, so I speak of UCL, but I think it happens absolutely everywhere, of commercialization journeys taken by academics that didn't end well. And I want to, over the years, having worked with hundreds of these individuals, and now at London Business School, where I think more philosophically about this, is to try to understand why and gather those experiences together to provide a framework that I think can help those journeys either end a lot sooner, if they're going to end in disaster anyway, or end successfully. So here we go. I want to start off with a few reflections on scientists and their methods. I mean, this is summing up very simply, oversimplification. I know I'm a greedy reductionist, but there we go. The scientists and their method, the scientific method is, first of all, develop a hypothesis, then think, how could we poke a hole in it? How can we, to use Thomas Kuhn's word, falsify the hypothesis? And then to devise and do an experiment to test it. Not to build it up, but to destroy it. Because if it's going to fail, you want to make it fail fast, fail cheap, falsify fast, falsify cheap. And then there are three outcomes to that. Either you reject the hypothesis, or you refine the hypothesis, or you devise a more devious experiment. And then you publish. Now, this is terrific because it, as a scientific method, fantastic number of merits. First of all, it keeps scientists honest. Rather than falling in love with their ideas, it tells them, and it keeps the discipline of no, question your ideas. And that's very nice, because if you have a baby, then it's obviously going to be beautiful. And this is really saying, just because you have a baby, it doesn't necessarily mean it's beautiful. You need to question it. Minimizes, very importantly, the waste, the science of science resources. Now, if you put too much effort into hypotheses that eventually get falsified, then that's been a huge waste of your time. It's been a huge waste of science resource time as well. So falsifying fast is a great way of conserving and making sure that scarce resources are used to maximum effect. It's a rigorous and robust approach. You can trust what comes out of it. Rather than it being spin, this is built on real robust methodology. It demonstrates the commitment of the scientist. It's too easy to shove hypotheses out there and say it's lovely and then it's over to you guys. This is forcing scientists to show some commitment to the hypotheses that they brought out. And finally, it builds a community around it, because you publish it and you start to have conversations with others. It isn't a single effort, it is the effort of the community to help get this thing going. So where does this go then? I think that this same thinking has enormous value when it comes to testing commercial hypotheses. And the nice thing, as I'll say later, is that it's a method that is known to all scientists, and therefore once explained to scientists, once you work with scientists on a method like this, they kind of get it and realize that they are perfectly able to develop the commercial potential. There's no rocket science involved. It's actually quite intuitive, and it's the same method. Because what happens? Sorry, I backtrack a little. What happens? First of all, I've observed many scientists get stuck in the headlights. They got this fantastic technology. They don't quite know what to do with it. Commonly, they can't envision a pathway. They can't think, or they can think of loads and can't decide which, or they settle on one and then promptly go into sales mode. All of these things are bad news. And so can the scientific method help? And I think it can, as I said, by envisaging what success might look like. I think they need to build a business hypothesis. The business hypothesis, of course, is partly the technology. That is the underlying, based on good science, technology. And then the pathway to profit is the rest. And I want to spend the rest of this morning, well, the rest of, not this morning, hopefully the rest of the next few hours, few minutes talking about what that might be. Because if we can plug together the technology hypothesis and the business hypothesis, then we have something to test. Now consider. I say I've worked with hundreds of scientists. It seems to be a 5-step process. There are 5 strategic choices that have to be made, and until you make them, I believe and I observe that very little progress is actually made. It's wrong, like all hypotheses are wrong, but that doesn't matter, because in order to get to the right hypothesis, you need to start with the wrong one. You need to start somewhere. Consider. Now, here it is, a technology. This is a technology out of a university in California that I particularly like. What could you use it for? This is what I sometimes ask scientists, what could you use this for? I'm not going to ask for audience participation. I'm going to tell you. There are many things you could use it for, but this particular group of scientists hypothesized that the application might be in a bicycle, and here we are. Not just any old bicycle, but a mountain bicycle. Not just any old mountain bicycle, but a high-end mountain bicycle, the $7,000 Arantix mountain bicycle. Now, the marvelous thing about hypothesizing an application here, as opposed to in biomedicine as a stent or as a construction material, or another 10 applications, they settled on one, and that allowed them to start testing whether it was a good one. But they were precisely wrong, maybe, but that was better than being vaguely right. Now, I will give you 1 minute to look at this. They went to a trade show. They went to where their customers were and asked their customers potentially to throw mud at it. This was a mountain biking trade show. And these are the kind of responses that came up. Now, you can reflect on these later, but there's a whole load of good stuff in here. Some of it says do something different. Some of it says it's a showstopper. Some of it says the mountain bike is not a mountain bike. The mountain bike, though you may not have realized, is a thing of beauty, and this does not look beautiful filled full of mud. But whatever it is, it's phenomenally useful feedback in guiding the next development of the technology. And I particularly like the bottom one, which is, could you build me a road bike out of the same stuff? Which actually is what happened. They realized that they had onto the wrong mountain bike, wasn't it? But at the same time, they realized that what was it was a road bike instead. But they wouldn't have got to that without going through this first. They needed to start somewhere. So moving on, they decided to go for it. And in going for it, what was the it? Well, the it is the business. And certainly the business is to get bikes to users, but where do they play in the chain? The next hypothesis is what the business is going to do and what business is going to partner. And then they go out and ask those customers why they wouldn't buy it. Remember, you're testing the hypothesis, you're trying to falsify, so you're asking people why they wouldn't do something rather than why they would do something. Now, here's a key to a diagram, and here's a whole load of potential pathways. This is a pathway. It's probably wrong, but it's a hypothetical pathway for getting from the R&D, which is what they're doing now, to the riders. And it goes through, very simplistically, R&D to tubes, to bikes, to brand, to distribute, to ride. Now, that's wrong, but it's a good place to start. It'll become more complex as you get into it and test this itself as a hypothesis, but it's a good place to start. So in this case, you have the R&D, and your customer is the tube manufacturer. All you're going to do is the R&D, and your customer is going to be the one who takes it from there. All these other people are important because they influence the decision of the tube manufacturer to invest in you. However, bottom line is the tube manufacturer is your customer. That is the one who you have to go and ask, why wouldn't you invest in this technology, and gain a whole pile of information as a result. Alternatively, you could get more ambitious and say, we are the only people in the world who can make these tubes, so we're going to do the R&D and the tube, and then the bike manufacturers are going to be the ones who are going to be our customers. Brand, distribute, ride, they're influencers, but not people we have to deal with. They're not going to be the ones who are going to invest in the technology. They are our customers. They are the ones, and no one else, who we have to focus our attention on. Or it could be you're going to get into bikes, and brand is you're going to be the key customer, and distribute and ride, and the rest goes down. But it's important to hypothesize this. You might be wrong, but you need to focus those efforts. And by focusing the efforts, I mean you need to focus on who is it who's actually going to invest in this technology. Then go ask them some questions. You might be wrong. Very often, it goes all the way down. It's happened again. Any idea why? I didn't even touch anything this time. So, Following on from that, we're down to the fourth, actually, and that is to think about upfront how you might try to derive benefit from this, which is the fourth element. And there are many ways in which a scientist wants to derive benefit from a technology. It can be they want cash now. It can be they want cash later. It may be they want to build their reputation and they don't want cash at all. It may be they want a job, in which case they don't want cash now, they want cash as an employee. There are many ways in which to build the relationship, I say to build the reputation, and the way in which you approach a customer and ask them for effectively the deal impacts how likely it is that they're going to enter into that deal with you. If you want cash up front, then that means they have to provide that cash up front. It also more symbolically is likely to signal that you haven't got a great deal of faith in your own technology because you just want them to pay you some money now, then run in the other direction. So the structure of the deal becomes the fourth element of this pathway to profit, which I believe should be thought about up front because it impacts how likely it is that an investor will invest. And so it then goes on to the investment model, but I'll talk about the investment model very briefly in this slide, is to say there are 5 things that form the hypothesis. The first is the initial application. They went for bikes. The second is the market segment, the heavy user. They went for mountain bikes. They looked not just at bikes, but they thought the particular properties of this material is best for what sort of bike, and they hypothesized mountain, and they were wrong. They found out that it was road, but they couldn't have found out that it was road without first having hypothesized mountain. Where you'll play in the value chain, and by doing this, hypothesizing where you'll play, it tells you who your customer is. Very often, you'll think that a particular player in the value chain is the customer, and they will tell you that you are wrong, which is fantastic because you can go to the right one, but you couldn't go to the right one until you've gone to the wrong one. And then the structure and timing of the revenue and benefit, which will impact the deal. If you're selling to an end user, it will also impact the adoption rate. And then finally, the cash you'll need. And the cash is the fifth determinant, the cash is the fifth element of this pathway to profit, the cash you need, but it is limited or determines what it is you do. The more you do in the value chain, the more you'll need, the less likely you're to get investment, the less you can do, and the risk and timing of the revenue. If you delay the revenue, then you need more money to fund the cash flow gap. So why this can help? This simple, I think it's simple, founded over many years of experience. It doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just a hypothesis in itself as a framework, but why I think it can help and it works. I think it's the best and fastest way for any entrepreneur, whether coming out of tech or otherwise, to understand the market and industry environment. It gets you the hell out of the building, gaining some intelligence on what it's like out there, because you've got something to talk about, something to test. And the plan B, the one that finally ends up working, I think the fastest way to the right plan B is through the wrong plan A. Secondly, it creates an agenda for team discussion and for action. As soon as you introduce this agenda, you get some real discussion amongst the team as to what are the choices we think we need to make, what are the choices we want to make. And it also creates an agenda for action. Once you've made some decisions, you know who you have to talk to, you know what you're going to talk to them about, it gets you out of the building talking, out of the laboratory. Third, it builds relationships with potential partners and investors. You get out there, you start talking to people, they sense your commitment, they sense your passion, they sense your expertise, they like you. And whether or not you end up doing business with you, they are the ones who will help that spread virally. They want to help you. They will be the ones that if you do launch, you can go back to and say, hey, we listened to you, and we are now doing this. It builds you into the fabric of the industry and the market. And finally, I think the wonderful thing is it's intuitive to scientists. I see the scales falling away. Oh, we can do it too. This commercialization business isn't something we have to delegate or abdicate to anybody. We can be in charge of this process because, hey, it's what we do in science, it's what we do in business. Thank you.